Hello and good evening. It is with great pleasure I welcome Dr. Zeina Obeid for today's interview. Dr. Zeina Obeid is a partner at Obeid and Partners based in Dubai, where she specializes in international arbitration, litigation, and dispute resolution across the Middle East and North Africa region. Over the years, she has acted as lead counsel in several high profile international arbitration matters and has also served as sole arbitrator, presiding arbitrator, and co arbitrator in both ad hoc and institutional arbitrations under leading arbitral rules, including the ICC, LCIA, DIAC, CRCICIA, BCDR, and DIFC. Dr. Obeid is a fellow and accredited tutor of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators (SIARB) and currently serves as vice chair of the SIARB UAE branch in Dubai. She is also a member of the ICC Commission on Arbitration and ADR, the ICCY-AAF representative for Dubai and Lebanon for 2024 to 2026, and co-chair of the International Bar Association Young Lawyers Committee for 2024 to 2026. Her academic credentials are equally impressive. She holds a PhD from Université Panthéon-Assas in France, awarded with the highest honors, an LLM from Columbia University in New York, as well as advanced degrees in arbitration and ADR, business law, and Lebanese law. She is qualified to practice law in Beirut and Paris and is also licensed in Dubai. Dr. Obeid is widely recognized as a thought leader in arbitration and has authored numerous publications on international dispute resolution. Her acclaimed book, Setting Aside Arbitral Awards in Arab Countries, published in 2017, has become a key reference for arbitration practitioners across the MENA region. Her work and contributions to the legal profession have earned significant recognition internationally. In 2024, she received the Young Lawyer Achiever of the Year award at the Legal Era Middle East Law Awards and has been ranked by Lexology as a future leader. Peers and clients have described her as a brilliant lawyer and arbitrator, detail-oriented, and a go-to practitioner for commercial and investment treaty arbitration matters in the region. Today, we look forward to speaking with Dr. Obeid about her remarkable professional journey, the evolving landscape of international arbitration, and the future of dispute resolution in an increasingly interconnected world. Dr. Obeid, thank you for joining us. It's truly a pleasure to have you with us today. Could we start with what first inspired you to pursue law, specifically international arbitration and dispute resolution?
Thank you very much, Shubra. It's a pleasure to be with you and thank you for the invitation. To go to your question, actually, I have always been drawn to the humanities, literature, history, social sciences, and the way societies organize themselves. Law felt like the natural meeting point between all of these interests. It is intellectual, but it's also human. It deals with conflict, business, justice, strategy, and persuasion. And I was also very fortunate to grow up with a very powerful role model at home. My mother is a very successful lawyer, and watching her build a career from scratch with discipline, independence, and integrity had a deep impact on me. For me, law was not only a profession, it was also a way for a woman to have a strong voice and a meaningful career. And very quickly, during my first year of law school, I knew I made the right choice. International arbitration came naturally afterwards. I come from a multicultural background, Lebanese and French, civil law and Middle Eastern law trained, multilingual, and always moving between different legal and cultural worlds. And coming from Lebanon, which is a relatively small jurisdiction, with a rich legal tradition, as you know, Beirut was known during the Roman Empire as the mother of law. due to its famous law school, Beirut. So, coming from Lebanon, which is, as I was saying, a small jurisdiction, I felt it was important to build an international practice. And arbitration gave me exactly that, the possibility to connect jurisdictions, languages, cultures, and business realities.
Thank you, Zena, for that answer. So, connected to that, could you share how your academic journey from University Panthéon-Assas in Paris, followed by an equivalence degree from the Lebanese University and then Columbia University in New York, shaped your professional outlook?
So, my academic journey shaped the way I think as a lawyer. I pursued my bachelor and my two master's degree at the same time, one in arbitration and ADR, and another one in business law in the Arab countries. That was at the master level after my bachelor. And in parallel, I completed my Lebanese law studies because it was important for me to remain connected to my home jurisdiction and to be able to qualify and practice in more than one legal system. And actually, this combination allowed me to build a bridge between East and West, French civil law, Lebanese and Arab civil law tradition, and the wider international arbitration practice. And later, while I was working in international law firms in Paris and writing at the same time my doctoral thesis, I realized how important common law is in international arbitration. And this is what led me to apply to the US, and I was admitted at Columbia University in New York. And Columbia was actually a turning point. It was, of course, academically demanding, but also professionally and personally enriching. It gave me exposure to common law thinking, but also a truly international network. Many of the people I met became friends, colleagues, co-counsel, and referral across continents. So today I see that combination as one of my greatest assets: civil law, Arab legal system, common law exposure, academic research, and practical arbitration experience. And it has been, especially as a conclusion, valuable, not only as counsel, but also when sitting as an arbitrator, where you need to understand different legal cultures and different ways of presenting a case.
Thank you, Zena. That was very insightful. Zena, you mentioned your mom in your first answer. I would like to know more about that as to like who were your mentors or role models early in your legal career and how did they influence you?
Yes, thank you for the question. So, Shubra, yes, my first mentor was, without hesitation, my mother. She was my role model before I became a lawyer, and she became my mentor when I joined the family law firm. Through her, I was exposed very early to serious arbitration work, including as tribunal secretary. And that gave me firsthand training in how arbitrators think, how tribunals deliberate, how evidence is assessed, and how awards are drafted. And it helped me shape my analytical skills and my instinct as an arbitrator. She also taught me something very important: excellence applies to every task. So you do not start with the glamorous part of the profession. As you all know, you start with the file, the documents, the chronology, the authorities, sometimes even with most basic administrative tasks. But you do each task with care, and that humility and discipline are essential in arbitration, and I believe in any field in law. Another mentor, important mentor, I would like to mention was the late Professor Dr. Sami Mansour, a remarkable professor of law and a judge. He was a true legal encyclopedia. I had the privilege of assisting him on several matters, and he refined my research skills enormously. I still remember until now the long legal discussions with him, sometimes for hours, where we would test arguments, compare authorities, and examine legal principles and deaths. And finally, on a more personal level, my grandfather was also a major role model. He was a distinguished doctor, a general in the Lebanese army, and the director of the military hospital. But beyond his professional success, he was a deeply cultured, patriotic, and family oriented man. He taught us the importance of commitment, public service, family, and attachment to our country and our land. And those values remain with me.
Thank you for your answer. It was very enriching. I'm glad to know that you had so many people influencing your life, and probably it had a hand in shaping you and reaching where you are today. So, now coming to a little bit of your professional aspect, you've acted as counsel and as an arbitrator in several arbitration cases across the MENA region. What are some challenges that have stayed with you, and how did you navigate them?
Yes, so the challenges were real, particularly in the beginning. The first is being young, and the second, being a woman. In arbitration, credibility is everything, and sometimes you have to earn that credibility twice. I remember my first appointment as an arbitrator. One party challenged me just because I had asked them to submit a notarized power of attorney as required by the law. The challenge was, of course, dismissed, but it was revealing. In another case, a senior in house counsel also told me, "You look like my daughter, but if the ICC appointed you, you must be competent." So it was maybe meant to be a compliment, perhaps, but it also showed bias. And sometimes the challenges are even more absurd. I have many examples to give. Like, for example, you may be challenged because your microphone was muted during a CMC. But these moments teach you composure. As arbitrator, you must remain calm, procedurally fair, and focused on the record. And the way to navigate this is not by reacting emotionally, but by being prepared, rigorous, and fair. Once you receive your first appointment and show how you can efficiently manage a case and draft a sound and enforceable award, trust begins to build, and then one appointment will lead to another. So there is no magic path or no secret shortcut. Every career has a different story, but I believe with trust, patience, persistence, consistency, these challenges become opportunities. And when the first appointment comes, whether as a counsel or as an arbitrator, you realize that the hard work paid off.
Thank you, Zaina. Um, I agree with you on a lot of those points. And connected to that, how does practicing in multiple jurisdictions like Beirut, Paris, Dubai influence your approach to international arbitration?
Yeah, so practicing across jurisdiction, Beirut, Paris, and Dubai, has made me more adaptable. In international arbitration, technical legal knowledge is, of course, essential, but it's not enough. You also need cultural intelligence. You need to understand how people communicate, how they negotiate, how they perceive procedure, authority, time, and advocacy. And working in different jurisdictions teaches you to move between these legal traditions and professional expectation. For example, a submission that is persuasive in one legal culture may not be persuasive in another. A witness may need to be approached differently depending on their background. Even the role of written advocacy versus oral advocacy can also significantly vary. So, I would not say that multiple jurisdictions simply influence my approach. I would say that they sharpen the skills that arbitration requires: adaptability, multilingual communication, comparative legal thinking, and the ability, as I was mentioning, to build these bridges between different legal and business cultures.
Thank you, Zaina. Some very insightful information there. I hope we pick up from that and learn from it. So, Zaina, your 2017 book, Setting Aside Arbitral Awards in the Arab Countries, is widely cited. What motivated you to write it, and how can you see its impact evolving?
Thank you, Shubra, for pointing this out. So, actually, this book began as my doctoral thesis. And at the time, arbitration in the Arab world was developing quickly, but the legal landscape was uneven. So, some arbitration laws had been modernized, other not. And in several jurisdictions, the courts were setting aside awards on grounds that were sometimes not clearly provided for in the legislation, or they were being interpreted in a very particular way. And setting aside and enforcement are crucial topics in arbitration because at the end of the day, the effectiveness of an arbitration is tested when the award is challenged or enforced. And if the award could survive that stage, cannot survive that stage, the entire process loses value. So, one of the difficulties in the region is access to information. Unlike in Europe or in common law jurisdiction, court decisions are not always published, and access to case law can be very difficult. So, the work required a real field based research effort to collect decision, meeting judges, meeting persons, and analyzing how courts in different Arab jurisdictions approach arbitration to identify the grounds for annulment, enforcement, and their interpretation to draw comparative conclusions and recommendations. So I believe the book helps shed light on a region that is very important for arbitration, but not always accessible to international arbitration practitioners. So the next step, in my view, it would be to update it and publish an English version so that it can reach a wider audience.
With connected to your writing, with articles spanning topics like force majeure, anti-corruption, and due process, how do you choose subjects to write about?
Yes, thank you. So actually, I choose the topic and the topics in different ways. Sometimes it is triggered by a legal development, a new law, a new court decision, a new institution. But sometimes it's a major event affecting the business community, such as a war, economic crisis, COVID, sanctions. And these events create legal questions that clients and practitioners needs to understand quickly. Other topics they come from my arbitration practice. A case may raise a difficult procedural or substantive issue, and then I believe and I feel that a broader questions deserve academic or practical analysis. And finally, sometimes I write because topic is personally important to me. Anti-corruption, for example, is a subject that I care deeply about, particularly in the Lebanese context. So, contributing to work on anti corruption was a way to participate as a lawyer in a conversation that goes beyond technical law and touches government's accountability and public trust.
You serve as vice chair of the SIAB UAE branch and co-chair of the IBA Young Lawyers Committee. How do you think these roles help shape the future of dispute resolution?
So, yes, so these roles are important because they allow us to contribute to the arbitration community beyond our individual cases. And these institutions and professional organizations that are not about events only and panels, they create platforms for training, visibility, mentorship, and international exchange. And particularly the CIR, they have an educational program. Similarly, with the IBA, we have a lot of trainings and mentorship programs, which are very important. So, for young lawyers in particular, these organizations can be transformative. They help you develop oral advocacy because they give the young practitioners the opportunity to speak, to moderate, present, defend ideas in a more casual context. And they build, communications and networking skills, which are essential in a profession that is heavily based on trust. And also, they provide you with an international exposure, which is particularly important in arbitration, where your reputation cannot remain purely local. And I believe that equally important, they create this long term professional relationship. It's not only about appointments, it's about collaboration, referrals, friendship, and building a network across jurisdictions. So the organization like the CIR, ICCF, IBA, they allow lawyers from the same generation to grow together, exchange experience, and support one another. And by being actively engaged, you become more adaptable, as I was previously saying, more culturally aware, and more open to different perspectives. And I also believe that you gain leadership experience, which help you become a better manager or a better approachable professional. And these are not skills that you are taught at a law firm or at law schools, but they are also really essential for the future of the dispute resolution.
Okay, you mentioned young lawyers and how they should be influenced from these chairs and through various forums that we have. So,
Yeah.
how important is mentoring for young lawyers, and what advice do you give to emerging dispute resolution professionals?
Yes, so mentoring is absolutely key. Arbitration and any other field are demanding field, and the young lawyers need guidance not only on the technical skills but also on judgment, career strategy, confidence, and resilience. So when I speak with youngest practitioners, I often describe like it's a toolkit for success, in my view, which are trust, patience, skills, hard work, confidence, and visibility. And if I had to choose one word, it would be trust, because clients must trust you before they allow you to handle a case. And institutions and peers must trust you before they appoint you as an arbitrator. And that trust is built slowly through consistent work. This is why patience, which with the new generation is no longer present, is very important, being patient. And of course, the prerequisite is to have a strong foundation as a lawyer, to have excellent technical, analytical skills. And in this regard, with the emergence of AI can be a useful tool, but it should not do the thinking for you. So you must develop your own reasoning first and test it. So other advice is that it's important to have strong written and oral advocacy, attention to details, and complete mastery of your case. So clients and colleagues, they trust those who know better the file better than anyone else. And also taking the time to be engaged in academic engagement, like writing, publishing, speaking, sharing ideas, because with publishing, you create visibility and at the same time credibility. And finally, as I was saying, finding a mentor is key, because a good mentor will open your eyes, correct your course, and support you when the path feels slow. And yes, so these would be my advice.
Thank you, Zena, for your wisdom. You've been recognized as Young Lawyer Achiever of the Year by the Legal Era, Middle East Law Awards, and have been ranked by Lexology as a future leader in arbitration. How have these recognitions influenced your career?
So I see recognition first as the result of work, not as a substitute for it. So these awards and ranking reflect years of efforts, cases, writing, institutional work, and relationship built over time. Of course, I am very touched and honored by the recognition, especially when it comes from peers, clients, and the wider arbitration community. I would not say that recognition changed my career overnight. Rather, it confirmed that the work that I was doing was being seen. It also gives credibility to people who may not yet know you personally. And in arbitration, reputation matters, and this recognition can help open more doors. But once the door is open, you still have to prove yourself through the quality of your work. So for me, it's also a motivation to continue improving, to remain humble, and to continue contributing to the profession.
What has been your most memorable professional moment so far?
One of my most professional moments was receiving my first appointment as an arbitrator from the ICC. I was 31. It was a very meaningful moment because it represented trust from an institution, trust in my ability to manage a case, and in my judgment at a relatively young age. For any arbitration practitioner, the first appointment is special. You remember it not only because it's a career milestone, but because it confirms that the others are prepared to see you not only as a counsel, but also as a decision maker.
Okay, coming to what you've mentioned before as well, as a female leader in international law, how have you seen gender dynamics evolve in arbitration?
Gender dynamics in arbitration has evolved positively. There is now much greater awareness of the need for diversity, and arbitral institutions have played a very important role in that progress. Initiatives such as also the Equal Representative and Arbitration Pledge have helped put the issue on the agenda and have encouraged institutions, council, and parties to think more seriously about appointments. And these initiatives have also allowed younger and more diverse profiles to emerge. And that is very important because diversity should not be limited to gender alone. It also includes age, geography, legal culture, language, and professional background. There is still, of course, work to be done. Bias has not yet disappeared, but the direction is positive. The key is to ensure that diversity and excellence are seen together and not as a competing idea. So the profession simply needs to continue making them visible and giving them opportunities.
So, what's next for you? Are there particular domains or issues you're excited to explore?
So, I'm actually very interested in AI, legal technology, and the way they will shape the law firm of the future. And this is not only about using new tools, it's about rethinking how legal services are delivered, how teams are organized, how to train young lawyers, how we preserve quality while becoming more efficient. So I would like to be more involved in that transformation, particularly in arbitration and dispute resolution. The challenge is to embrace the innovation without losing the qualities that define excellent lawyering: judgment, ethics, creativity, precision, and of course, human understanding. So, for me, the future law firm will not be the one that would simply adopt technology. It will be the one that combines technology with strong legal culture, strong training, and strong values.
So, Ziana, could you walk us through a case where cultural and legal norms of different countries significantly affected the arbitration process?
Very interesting question. So, without naming the parties, one example that stayed with me involved a subcontractor facing a very difficult contract. The contract was very heavily one sided, and on its face, it contained many provisions that were unfavorable to our client. And from a purely contractual perspective, one might have looked at the wording and concluded that the case was almost lost. But the applicable law was the law of a civil law jurisdiction in the region, in the MENA region, and that changed the analysis. In addition, of course, with a strong factual matrix in favor of our client. And we focused on the mandatory provisions of the applicable law and on principles that could simply not be waived by contract. That required a different style of advocacy. We had to persuade the tribunal that the case was not only about what the contract said, but also about the legal framework within which the contract operated. And we were able, it was difficult, but we were able to succeed in three related arbitrations. So, for me, this is a very good example that in international arbitration, the applicable law matters, legal culture matters. The way a tribunal understands concepts such as good faith, mandatory rules, waiver, and public policy can significantly affect the outcome of the case.
Thank you, Zena, for your very insightful answer. I think it was a very insightful interview as well. I personally have gained a lot from your answers, and I wish you best of luck. Again, thank you for taking the time to join us. It was a pleasure hearing your perspectives on international arbitration, professional leadership, and the evolving legal landscape. Your clarity of thought and contributions to the field made this discussion very valuable. And I am also very grateful to feature in your journey and insights.
Thank you so much, Shubhra, and for having me. I'm really delighted and honored to speak with an Indian journal, particularly because India and the wider Asian market are increasingly important to international arbitration. And I'm really delighted to have been part of your series.
Thank you. Thank you so much.